Hi, this is Simon from HomeKit News, and this week we're looking at the Nuki Smart Lock 2, a smart lock designed for doors that use Mortice locks. Now, as well as the Nuki Lock, I'll be looking at some of the extras you can get to work with the Nuki, like the company's Keypad and Keyfob, and even the newly released Power Pack, so keep watching for more. So this video is slightly different and almost certainly longer, as we've got not one but 5 unboxings, although of course the main thing we're looking at today is the Nuki Lock 2 itself. So aside from the lock, we've got the Nuki Bridge, the Nuki Keypad, the Nuki Keyfob, and the one I've been waiting for, the Nuki Power Pack. So we'll come back to these extras throughout the course of the video, but let's start with the star of the show, the Nuki Lock 2, and as you can see, it's compatible with HomeKit as well as Amazon and Google, plus a bunch of other integrations that you can read about in the separate written review. Now, this is certainly one of the better packaged products I've encountered, and if you're on a budget, this package alone should contain everything you need to get started. The first things you encounter are the lock itself, along with some important documentation, so don't throw it away because you're going to need at least some of it. The first of these is a simple website card with a QR code, followed up by the all-important setup guide that goes through installation. Possibly as important is the card with the HomeKit code on, so do keep this one safe. And finally, a booklet outlining the terms and conditions as well as some safety information. Let's get the hardware out, and alongside the hefty lock, which is made from a mix of matte black plastic and aluminium, you get an Allen key, which you'll see later, as well as a special magnet that acts as a door sensor. Additionally, you get 2 separate steel plates labelled A and B. The reason for the 2 separate plates is mostly due to how far the cylinder portion of the lock sticks out, but both are able to work with the main 4 types of locks pictured here: Swiss round, knob cylinder, UK oval cylinder, or Euro profile cylinder, which is the one I have. If the end of the cylinder sticks out 3mm or more, you can use plate A. Now, this plate has small screws that work with the provided Allen key I mentioned earlier. I'll demonstrate how they work later in the video, but as you can see here, there are 3 of these screws in total that are fixed around the edge of the lock cylinder. If the edge of the cylinder is flush, then you can use plate B that uses a strong adhesive to keep the plate all in place. If you watch this basic animation, you can see how either plate fit onto your door lock, with the Nuki Lock itself clicking into place after you've reinserted the inside key. Now, it looks easy, and it really is, as I'll show you shortly. Let's now have a look at the lock portion of the Nuki Lock, and you can see one of the 2 plates is fitted here, so you can see how it all looks together. The base of the lock has a little compartment that holds the 4 AA batteries you need to power the Nuki, although as you'll see later, I use the new Power Pack. If I remove the back plate, you can see a slot where your key will fit, which allows the Nuki Lock to open and close the door. Now, one thing to note is the location of the second HomeKit code, which is on the base of the lock. This is on the lock body, not the battery compartment, so you can't really lose it. Onto the basic installation, and as already mentioned, I'm using plate A, which means I'll be fixing the plate to the edge of the Euro cylinder with the 3 screws and the provided Allen key. Also, as stated, it looks easy because it is, and as long as you have enough clearance to get to the screws, you can have the plate fitted in less than a minute, which is even quicker than with the August smart lock I've been having on test for a while too. I expect a review of that soon. Now, just because you might be able to use plate A, there's nothing stopping you from using plate B if you prefer, although with the adhesive it's more of a permanent solution, whereas plate A can simply be unscrewed and relocated. After the plate is fitted, I then simply place the key in the unlocked door. Now, one important note is that your cylinder lock needs what is called an emergency function. Without this, the Nuki Lock can't work. These types of cylinders are easily available, however, and are quite inexpensive. Now, some might say it looks quite bulky, and yes it is, but in reality the lock doesn't protrude any more than the handle above, and as such it doesn't really bother me at all. Now, it's 60mm wide and deep, and 110mm tall, or 120mm if you have the Power Pack installed. Once everything's in place, the lock should start to auto-calibrate to work out the positions for the Nuki when it's in the locked position, the double locked position, or unlocked of course. Now if your door already comes with one of these types of Mortice locks, you'll probably be aware that the lock can be double locked for extra security, and the Nuki Lock can deal with that and can both lock and double lock in a variety of situations, all of which are under your control. One use case might be that you can set the Nuki Lock so that it double locks after you go to bed every night, for example. Now if you prefer, you can always have the Nuki set to double lock if you feel the need for that extra bit of security, which is available in the Nuki app itself as shown here. Conversely, the Nuki Lock, besides controlling the Mortice bolt, can also control the latch bolt, so if you prefer, you can set the door to totally unlock, removing the need to even pull down the handle. You can set how long the latch remains unlatched in the app too, so that's quite useful if you have your hands full, for example. Built into the centre of the Nuki's handle is an LED ring which can let you know what's going on at a glance. Now if the door is unlocking, the whole ring will flash, and once the door is unlocked, the top section of the ring will be unlit before eventually the whole ring turns off. Eventually the ring will start to blink to let you know that the door is still unlocked if it is unlocked. It's worth noting that you can actually control the brightness of this LED ring in the Nuki app if you wish. When the Nuki starts to lock, the LED ring will light up again, with the whole ring lit up for a few seconds to confirm the door is eventually locked. If you ever want to know the status of the lock, you can just slightly turn the handle and the ring will light up, giving you an idea of what state it's in. Now if the batteries are low, the top of the ring will flash periodically to let you know that you need to change the batteries. Next up is the Nuki Bridge for connecting the Nuki Lock to your Wi-Fi network. Now you can purchase this separately, or you can buy it at a slightly discounted price with the Nuki Lock as part of a special bundle. The bridge uses a similar textured plastic to the Nuki Lock and doesn't have much other than a large button and a small white LED. It's not terribly small either at 60 by 60 by 50, but then it's not actually needed if you want to use it with HomeKit and the Home app, assuming you already have a Home Hub. The Nuki Bridge uses a Type-C plug for the EU and uses the older Bluetooth 4 to connect to your lock with 2.4 GHz for your network. Now despite it not being necessary for HomeKit use, if you want to use the extras in the Nuki app while away from home, however, it could be handy. So if we just dive into the settings for the Nuki app temporarily and go from there onto the connection status option, we can check on the bridge and the Nuki Lock. Now in this instance I'm close to being out of range of the lock for Bluetooth, but with Wi-Fi I can still make a connection to the lock. If I then move closer to the lock and open the connection status again, you can see that both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections are available, with the diagram indicating a green circle encompassing all connections. Pretty handy, I think you'll agree. The Nuki Keyfob is up next, and even though it's small and light, it is a tad expensive. Still, it does have some interesting functions that some others might not have. Once again, it uses the older Bluetooth 4, but the tricks I mentioned earlier include single, double and even triple click actions that can be assigned specific functions, which include an intelligent option that means if the lock is in one state, pressing the fob will do the opposite, i.e. if the lock is locked, then unlock it. You can also program it with specific available actions, and a single fob can be paired with up to 100 locks, so you don't need one fob per lock. Onto the Nuki Keypad, and this is really useful if you neither have your phone, your key fob or your keys with you. There's not much in the box besides a manual and some screws, but when it comes to the keypad itself, with its tactile, weather resistant rubber surface, you have 10 buttons and a row of 6 mini LEDs. Now on the back is a very strong adhesive strip, but if you want a permanent fitting you can use the aforementioned screws and gaskets. The LEDs along the top help confirm that you've pressed a button, with each LED lighting up for each of the 6 presses of your code. Here you can see I'm installing the Nuki Keypad outside of our apartment door with the use of a laser tool to get it nice and level. Now as the keypad uses Bluetooth 4, just like the Keyfob and the bridge, the keypad can't be too far from the door itself, not that it needs to be in most instances. I've already paired the keypad to the lock in the app, so you can see that after entering a 6-digit code, you press the back arrow and the door automatically opens. Last but not least is the Nuki Power Pack, which is the one product that has made me hold back for so long from doing this review. Now, as the name would imply, this is a rechargeable battery pack that replaces the need for fresh batteries every few months. You can see that it essentially has 4 rechargeable AA batteries in a frame, which is fine as long as it works. Now, I'm told the battery pack should last up to 12 months between charges, but of course that depends on your usage. As you can also see, there's a USB-C port at the base of the battery pack to recharge it, along with a provided USB-C cable to do just that. Now the cable is pretty short, but it should do just fine, and if nothing else, I'm quite happy that somebody else is using a USB-C cable for a change. I'll now quickly run through the Home and Nuki apps. Now with the Home app, there's nothing of note really, other than it's showing you the battery levels, so nothing to see here, folks, essentially. But as it's HomeKit compatible, you can still use the lock in scenes and automations, of course. Perhaps it's unsurprising that it's a totally different story with the Nuki app. Now if we go into settings and select manage smart lock, you do get access to a ton of options and features. One of these is auto lock, which allows the door to lock after a set length of time, although you can also make sure that it locks as soon as the door is closed. One option I particularly like is night mode, that can double lock the door at a set time if you need extra security, as well as disable auto unlock between certain hours. Now there are way more features than I can possibly cover here, but another feature that might be of interest is Nuki on the web, that allows you to control your lock via a browser. This does need activating, of course, as well as signing up for a free Nuki account. Further settings are available, and as previously mentioned, you can adjust the brightness of the LED ring on the lock here, as well as assigning specific functions to the button in the middle of the lock, which is capable of single and double presses. There are plenty of functions here that can be found on other smart locks, of course, like activity logs for example, although due to the various ways in which you can unlock the Nuki Lock 2, these are also detailed in the logs. Not to be left out, Nuki has also enabled functionality for the lock directly from your wrist via an app designed specifically for Apple Watch. So if a keypad, keyfob, standard keys and your phone weren't enough, you still have the option here. I've got a rather old Apple Watch, but it still performs relatively swiftly, so I can only imagine it's quite snappy on a newer Apple Watch. Finally, onto the pros and cons, and it's a fairly solid set of pros with only one minor con, to be honest. So starting with the first pro, which is installation. Now you've seen how quick and easy it is to install, so that's going to be of massive benefit to many who aren't so DIY minded. The second pro is that there's a plethora of access options available, which really takes care of most people's needs, be that a standard key or via a passcode for example. The fact that the lock can also control the latch makes it convenient to have the door fully open if your hands are full, and whilst most of the extras aren't available directly in HomeKit, as the app is compatible with Siri shortcuts, there are still plenty of possibilities to be utilised. Even though we're all about HomeKit here, there's also nothing wrong with additional integrations that are available, so that's another plus. Now the only minor con is that the rotary handle itself is fairly smooth, providing less grip than it possibly could have, so maybe down the line they can add some tread to the handle like you get with the August lock. Anyway, I hope you've made it to the end of this rather long video, but if you still want to know more, do check out the in-depth written review via the link in the description. So thanks for visiting, and we'll see you in the next one.